Hey co-stars, welcome to another episode of Generation Films. My name is British Ben, the Ben on our channel with the best knowledge of cricket.
Oh, Edge didn't carry. Didn't carry. Anderson on top of his game, 52 for 1.
Anyway, let's get into today's video. So today we are going to be covering 10 flaws of the Klingon Imperial Fleet. Now, just a little note for the internet trolls out there, we won't just be focusing on the flaws of their ships and their battle tactics, but also other factors in the Klingon Empire which would influence the fleet's warfighting ability. So let's go. Number 1. Poor health and safety regulations. So Klingons are those dark blue-skinned bald aliens with Christmas tree lights on their armor. Haha, nah, I'm just kidding. I thought that would get you going. These are real Klingons. Ah, what a bunch of lovely people. But sadly, working for the Klingon Empire wasn't so lovely. Their ships were a bunch of rust buckets, but undoubtedly one of the most dangerous places to work would have been in the mining operations on the Klingon moon of Praxis. Basically, overmining combined with poor health and safety regulations caused the entire moon to explode.
Magnify.
Computer enhancement.
Praxis?
What's left of it, sir?
Many miners perished in the explosion. And Praxis was actually vitally important for the Klingon Empire.
It's Praxis, sir. It's a Klingon moon.
Praxis is their key energy production facility.
And thus the destruction of Praxis did great damage to the operations of the Klingon fleet. They had to divert money from their massive military budget to dealing with the environmental damage to their homeworld Kronos, which was in close proximity to Praxis. Put simply, they couldn't afford a war with the Federation anymore and were forced to make peace. So put simply, over-reliance on a single energy source combined with poor health and safety regulations that caused the explosion led to massive changes in the Klingon fleet's warfighting abilities. Number 2. A feudal society. The Klingon Empire operated as a feudal society, which was founded by Kahless the Unforgettable, a kind of Klingon Jesus figure. His catchphrase was, "Today is a good day to die." So maybe not so much like Jesus. But anyway, the title of emperor became a more ceremonial and spiritual position in modern times, with a chancellor leading the government in practical terms. So it was kind of like a constitutional monarchy, like Japan.
Let the strength of the samurai be with you always.
Well, not really, because you see, the Chancellor was the leader of the Klingon High Council, which was made up of representatives of the 24 great houses. And these great houses didn't always get along, often fighting amongst themselves. They were kind of like feudal lords operating below a king and fighting amongst each other. And sometimes they even fought against the interests of the empire, like General Chang, a Shakespeare enthusiast.
Prick us, do we not bleed? Wrong us, shall we not revenge?
Who worked against the Klingon Empire making peace with the Federation after the Praxis incident.
Incoming!
Or the House of Duras, whose challenge to Chancellor Gowron caused the Klingon Civil War, in which Klingon birds of prey actually attacked the Chancellor's ship. And the Chancellor was no saint either. Chancellor Gowron, in order to get General Martok, who he saw as a threat to his position, to take early retirement, would send him on suicide missions in which he would either die or be disgraced in defeat.
Our next target. Sarpedian 5.
Sarpedian is the headquarters of the entire 12th Order.
Yes.
But as you can see, Martok was very loyal to the Empire and shrugged off whatever Gowron threw at him.
I will fight any battle, anywhere.
Later, actions were taken to rid Gowron of his position and install Martok in his place. We'll talk about that later. Number 3. Too trigger happy. Klingons often shoot first without asking any questions. Like at the beginning of Star Trek The Motion Picture, where 3 Klingon battlecruisers encounter the space cloud known as the Jur, and before they even know what it is, they start firing torpedoes at it. Starfleet also doesn't know why they are firing torpedoes off into space.
Our sensor drone is intercepting this on quad L14.
That's within Klingon boundaries. Who are they fighting?
Unknown, sir.
And it doesn't end well for those 3 vessels. In Deep Space Nine, they launched an attack on Cardassia in a hunch that the Detapa Council had been replaced by the Founders, but they haven't, and it launches a confrontation with the Federation in which the Klingons lose a lot of ships.
Fire!
And eventually they find out it's actually the Klingons who'd been infiltrated by the Founders, and the Cardassians do eventually ally with the Dominion, which was the very thing that they were trying to stop in the first place through their trigger-happy antics. Number 4. Slow technological development. While the Klingons had been more advanced than the United Earth Starfleet back in the 22nd century, it would take 4 Starfleet vessels to fight off just 1 Klingon bird of prey back then. Humans quickly caught up with them, and by the 2470s, most Klingon ships still couldn't go faster than Warp 9.6, while Starfleet had developed Warp 9.9 capable ships such as the Intrepid class and the Sovereign class. Klingons were perhaps not really that innovative in the first place. Even their cloaking technology, which was probably their most advanced tech, was actually given to them by the Romulans. Their medical science was also underdeveloped, since most Klingon warriors would prefer to die an honorable death in battle than be revived, so they didn't really need doctors.
He said, "Today is a good day to die."
Number 5. Crude Weapons. Now, it may have been because Klingons spent so much time working on hand-to-hand combat with various kinds of knives that their actual ship-mounted weapons weren't anything special. Most Klingon ships used disruptors, which were the most common form of energy weapon in the galaxy, used by almost everyone except the Federation. Ship-mounted disruptors were known for being weak against shields, but strong against physical matter. Could explain why the Klingons' disruptors were so effective against the Enterprise D when the Klingons had found out their shield frequency. But in general, you'd have to break through a ship's shields before you could hit the hull. Heavy disruptors also drained a lot of power from other ships' systems, and handheld disruptors didn't have a stun setting, so victims would either be killed or suffer from heavy disruptor burns. These weapons were thus viewed as crude by the Federation and the Vulcans. Number 6. Weird human resources practices. We talked before about weird HR practices in the Federation, but the Klingons are even stranger. When Commander Will Riker served aboard a Klingon ship as a cultural exchange, he learned that as a first officer, in order to get a promotion, he was expected to kill his captain, and likewise, the second officer was expected to kill the first officer. Basically, serving aboard a Klingon ship would have been one of the most stressful experiences imaginable, because you'd always be looking over your shoulder to see if there was a junior officer who was trying to kill you. And it wasn't limited to just aboard ships. Even the Chancellor could be challenged to a fight to the death, and the winner would inherit the title and rule the entire empire.
Hail! Worf, leader of the Empire! Worf! 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 Worf!
So I think this constant internal struggle would take its toll on the Klingon fleet's fighting ability. Number 7. Too many smaller ships. The Klingon Bird of Prey was the classic Klingon attack ship all throughout the Next Generation era. The Klingon Empire liked these ships because they were cheap to build and they would take advantage of their guerrilla-style battle tactics. But the Bird of Prey actually had a lot of design flaws, and they were easily outgunned by most Federation starships. Of course, the Klingon fleet did have other larger ships like the Vorcha-class attack cruiser and this other one which I can't pronounce. But considering that during the invasion of Cardassia and the Dominion War you see 100-year-old Katinga-class battlecruisers boosting numbers in the fleet, their more modern attack cruisers were probably few and far between. Number 8. No Special Ops Forces. The Federation had Section 31, the Romulans had the Tal Shiar.
If any one of you defies the Tal Shiar, you will not bear the punishment alone. Your families, all of them, will be there beside you.
And the Cardassians the Obsidian Order.
I consider the entire conversation as something best forgotten.
But the Klingon Empire didn't have any known special operations forces. Perhaps it was a matter of honor. They didn't want to skulk around in the shadows. But for a military that spends half its time cloaked, I don't think that's very likely. Number 9. Their boarding parties sucked. Klingons are always getting bested in confrontations with other races. They were outgunned by Bajorans. Starfleet officers. And in hand-to-hand combat, they are beaten by female Trill. Shapeshifters. Humans. And species that don't even like hand-to-hand combat.
I find this hand-to-hand combat really quite distasteful.
Number 10. They can't keep a secret. When the Klingons are about to attack Cardassia, they keep their intentions secret from the Federation. But Worf manages to get intelligence on the attack easily by getting one of the Klingon warriors drunk on blood wine, singing some songs, and finally he informs Worf of the glorious battle ahead. But instead of a glorious battle, Worf notifies the Federation and they foil their plan. Perhaps the Klingons should have paid attention to this World War II propaganda poster. Well anyway guys, that's my 10 flaws of the Klingon Imperial Fleet. How do you think they would do as a fighting force? Please vote in the poll, with 5 being awesome and 1 being terrible. We'll have 10 advantages of the Klingon Fleet coming up in a few days. Please subscribe if you are new, and we'll see you next time on Generation Films. Bye bye.